you Jay Giles. Yeah, it's coming right up. I don't know. I was going to check on how to get. It says free, so I don't know where it's at for sure. Friday, September 8th. Luke Paul, that's my birthday. Get free tickets, and then yeah, I mean they probably just do 1 or 2 songs each or something. Still, either or.
Good? Okay.
Jay Guile or the guy.
Call to order the Vermilion County Council meeting for August 14th. Will you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I apologize, we started a few minutes late. We had a meeting beforehand. So, with roll call, Mr. Costello.
Here.
Mr. Somerville.
Here.
Ms. Brown. Here. Mrs. James, I'm present. Mr. Weir.
Here.
Mr. Bose.
Here.
And Mr. Brown.
Here.
Thank you. Our first item is approval of minutes. We have the minutes from our July 10th, 2023 meeting. Is there any additions, corrections, or comments regarding the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Alright.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion for Mr. Somerville, a second for Mr. Weir to approve the July 10th, 2023 Vermilion County Council minutes. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Minutes are approved. Next in your packet, you'll see you have the June 23 interest report and the July interest report as well. The interest has done very well so far this year.
Yes.
Any questions on that or the treasurer's monthly report?
Can I just state, just for the record, that total investments for 2023 was $988,252.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Moving along to transfer of funds. The first one is a transfer for redevelopment commission. They are asking to transfer a total of $30,000. They're working with Thrive in the town of Dana on the ochre blight elimination and attempting to maybe acquire other properties. They are transferring from demolition to professional services and capital outlays. This is one we will have to vote on due to the budget where those accounts are listed. So. And I saw Doc here if there's any questions for redevelopment.
It's money that they have, they're just moving it.
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion for Mr. Brown and a second for Ms. Brown. Are there any further questions? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no.
Whose name's supposed to be on
Transfer
that?
Department head?
What?
Department head
I
name?
know that, there's a line there for it, I'm just saying, whose name? Or who
John
did- who-
Ward's the president,
Okay.
Doc's on there, Doug comes all that stuff, I'm the lawyer.
I just didn't know if there was a particular person.
Department head, exactly.
Yeah, there's not.
Ashley's on there, Kelly's on
I put Kelly's name in, thank you.
there.
No, John.
It's for Dana, so yeah, I think you should.
Our next transfer of funds is for the courthouse. It's from the general fund. They are transferring $6,000 from janitor supplies to water and sewage so they can pay the water and sewer bill for the remaining of 2023.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
All right. I have a motion from Mr. Weir, second from Mr. Bose. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Transfer is approved. And the last one is a reporting only from the general fund. They are transferring from cell phone to dues and subscriptions to cover the costs for the Indiana State Festival Association book. And on the next page, you can see that they have listed all the different things in the county, events, festivals, everything like that, so it gets advertised for Lane County. So, any questions on that one?
Nope.
Okay. That is the end of transfers. Moving on to additional appropriations. The first one we had this evening is one we tabled from July. It is from the Commissioners Court. They are asking for $60,000 for computer support. This is their agreement that would last from October 1st through December 31st. And there's some additional paperwork I think that got copied and laid out. I believe, and there's several items of support behind it. And commissioners are here if we have questions. You want? Yep, go ahead, Jim.
The issue we have in 2022 was the first year the county had contract with EAS, and the total was $132,000 and covered everything except the jail. And 2023 contract consisted of $160,000, which includes the jail, and was only for 9 months. And the coverage within the contract is the current stations. Any stations that are added are additional costs, and it also covers everything that is required from our insurance provider for cybersecurity, and cybersecurity alone is a major component of what is needed to keep the county safe and insured. Commissioners have implemented an IT committee, and I just want to give an update on that. We have 5 good people in the community that are very well versed and are professionals in IT. We had our first meeting with them maybe 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and they're going to be a very valuable asset to our county to provide expertise, which I don't think others have. And so that's one of the things. We met once, we're waiting on a legal agreement between them and the county to make them so they're not going to be held liable in the case of decisions and things like that. This time we feel the best is interest of the county move forward with the final 3 months of the year with $60,000 request for EAS. Now finish out the year. That will give us more time to look around. Originally, I think we all knew that we had different plans, and in fact that we had someone that they was going to retire and they was going to take over the IT, and that was all there, and then it disappeared. So right now that's where we're at, and I think that with this IT committee that we can make even better decisions about the future and about what we'll do. IT is a necessary thing. We have to pay. You've got to have it. No one wants to pay it, but that's where we're at right now on that.
Wasn't the first 9 months 120,000 or something?
160.
No, it was 160.
And so, I mean, if you all have any great suggestions that will fix this so-called problem and cut the mountain, I mean, let us know. But it's something we've got to have, and there's no getting around it. Like I said originally, I think you all know we was talking about someone else who was going to retire and was going to take over the IT here and was going to cut costs. Well, that evaporated. So that's something we got to do. And if you have any suggestions for the future, please let us know, and the IT committee can look at it. And there's a lot of cost involved in this, and there's a high risk in this. You know, if something happens here, you're in trouble. You know, if you lose your protection or something like that. So it's important to have professional people of this caliber to handle this. So that's where we're at right now. If you've got any suggestions for in the future for us to try to pursue, we have talked about trying to find someone to take care of that, but I don't think that budget-wise and with all together, it just don't work. And, but that's where we're at on this.
You guys, your committee probably looking at what other counties are doing near us or stuff.
Yeah,
how much they have there.
Yeah, and I asked Brenda. I asked Brenda if we've compared our costs to other counties, and she says she's checked, and it's comparable to other counties.
That's what I think.
And I also, It's been a cracy day, but at the last minute, I gave Ashley some numbers and ran some reports on from 2018 to today. We're in the same ballpark. There was some years that were higher. That's when they bought some of the hardware. The numbers are very, very close. They're very, very similar. I talked to other counties. We're either right on target or actually a little low compared to other counties.
Yeah, I think
The kicker that I was told was the cybersecurity is extremely important. This isn't just a task on when little Joey calls and says they forgot their password that they log in and they help us. It's more than that. It's cybersecurity. It's required from our insurance that we have the cybersecurity, and they have steps that they have to take. EAS or any one that would be a provider would have to do these steps to provide to our insurance the requirements that collate with the insurance for cybersecurity.
So we need the money to finish the year out, but we have to have it. There's no getting around it. And if you guys have any suggestions that we can, go different routes, I'm more open to that.
Well, you won't get any suggestions from me on IT, because I don't know much about it. But why wasn't this a one-year contract to start with? I mean, why are we doing an additional on something that's so important?
Because I believe the council didn't approve enough money at the beginning. They said you had 160 and that's all you got. So we had to work with 160. Then tell them to hit the road. We had to say, this is what we got. Let's see what we can work out. And, like I said, with this new IT guys, I think it's going to help a lot as far as consulting and getting good information to make good decisions. And maybe next year we can do something different, but right now, I mean, that's where we're at.
I'd like to see it be an annual contract. I don't know if that's something we can work out later.
It was an annual contract, and they gave us a price last year at budget hearings. We left the budget amount the same as the previous year. There had been discussion of going hourly rate instead of doing the contract. So those discussions were made, and the discussions were also made about trying to maybe possibly hire a person. So we kept the budget consistent as the previous year. And I think that's kind of where you're at with the committee, is trying to find maybe other ways to work around things at this point. Is that correct?
Like I said, we never have had professional advice from IT, and that's a big part of our county cost, and to have those people now available, I think, is very, very valuable.
Yeah, and I just bring it up for historical purpose for me to understand and be clear on what I'm thinking it should be or why it isn't. But yeah, I have no issues with what was done.
So this, excuse me,
No, you're fine.
this includes the jail and the courthouse. How about health department?
Yes.
And the health department?
Well, not the move.
Not the move, that's separate. This is separate, okay. But it does include that for the rest of the year,
Yes.
other than the move.
And hopefully we can come up with, you're going to have a cost there regardless. But to say we're going to adjust that cost and bring it down lower, we can't say that. But we're open to suggestions, and I think this new board will bring us back some good advice. And, that way they will make good decisions.
We'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay.
We're waiting on that.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. I have a motion from Mr. Somerville, a second from Mr. Ware to approve the $60,000 for computer support. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no.
Being able to help you when they the next meeting with IT people, I think I know what it is, so that would be good.
Okay. If you'll just let us know, shoot us an email. Thank you. Alright. The next additional was also tabled from July. It is a request from the surveyor for extra help in the amount of $1,200. We had at one time asked about a different fund, but that one's not able to be used for this purpose. Mr. Mack did send us some information relating to it. Is he here this evening?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see you back there. Alright, so he is here if anyone has questions this evening. Have you heard back from the co-op, for like the co-op student at all?
I got one email back from the, I guess there's an administrator that runs the co-op program, both school systems.
Mm-hmm.
They were gonna keep track, put that out. I've got no interest back, but school just got started
Yeah.
too. So I'm hoping to hear back from them next couple of weeks. If not, I do have a retired gentleman who is very interested in doing this for me. So that's my plan B.
So you were thinking high school or college?
I was thinking high school.
High school.
Get it out of our local school systems and maybe get some young folks involved in our county government.
Sure.
What exactly do they have to do? I mean,
Well,
what are their functions, their physical functions?
They'll go through the county commissioner record books page by page. And what we're looking for is any reference to when the county road petitions were first recorded. And the reason we need those is the county road widths go from 22 feet clear up to 80 feet wide. They're all over the map. And the statutes say I have to know what those widths are, so I know that if any work gets done on a section corner, I need to know that so I can get the section corner perpetuated properly. Then when you get into the drainage law, all the county road widths and the right-of-ways have to do with how the county is draining the water. And typically, what happened before I came along, the county drainage board had a line item, if you'll remember, used to call capital outlays. Well, that's what the drainage board, i.e. commissioners, used to fix ditches along the road under the auspice of the drainage board. So we did away with that line item a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember that or not. But anyway, we just did away with that. So now we're just in a mess. We don't know what we don't know. And back in the early 80s, they began a process where they were auditing the commissioner record books, matching up with the county road petitions, mapping those out on a plat book, and that way they had a record of what road widths were where, why they were that way, and that way, in case we have another issue with joint going through farmer fields or farmer tiles, we know how to handle it. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is we have, as they go through there, the county has 8 regulated drains. Now, before I took office, we had no regulated drains. Nobody knew anything about any regulated drains. Well, we have 8 of them. They're on the books. The county is responsible for those regulated drains. And so the drainage board is now in a process where the one drain at Dana, we got it straightened out, got it legally going, legally functioning, and we're starting to do the maintenance and spending the money out of there, which you'll come across here in just a little bit. The way it should be: maintain the drainage, maintain the water flow, get rid of the beavers and the muskrats, which is our next big task. But we have 6 other drains on the book, and as long as they're on the books, that's county property. County's responsible for it. So what the drainage board is doing is we're going to go back to the original petitions. We can't find the court documents. We can't find the docket numbers on these things. We can't find them in Solar Conservation District office. When they closed the office back and moved to Rockville years ago, it was all thrown in file cabinet. I don't know. So you got 3 filing cabinets full back there at least. So we need to go back and try to find where the legal descriptions of those drains are so we can determine what the watershed is, and then we contact the landowner and say, hey, do you want us to reestablish this as a regulated drain, or do you want us to abandon it? But we need to do this legally, we need to do this properly, and go through the court system and file the right paperwork to abandon the drain and be able to walk away from it. So, and that's the process we'll be entering at Gessie. The Armor Morgan drain, hopefully this week. I think the drainage board will pass that as to abandon it. Then we'll file proper court documents and get them recorded properly, walk away from that one. Here's the problem. If one of those landowners says, hey county, this isn't functioning, you need to fix it, They never set up the watershed, they never set up the assessments to start collecting money to pay for that. Then all of a sudden, you're stuck, the county's stuck, could be a pretty good deal. You know, we looked at this Cuba project that didn't go through, and that was $600,000, and that wasn't that big of a project. So, we need to do this to protect the county in the long run. It should have been done years ago, should have been taken care of. Nobody ever took the time or the interest to do it correctly, so that's what I'm trying to do.
This amount of money is just gonna last about a month for this.
Oh, that's
Is
the
that all
last
you
day,
need?
that's for 20 hours a week till the end of the year, isn't that what we figured, Brenda, that one day?
I've slept since then.
Yeah, I think just till the end of the year.
They just take you.
And I'll ask for another appropriation in our next year's budget.
Okay.
I charge $1,200 an hour to read those books. It wouldn't last long.
Yeah.
I've looked.
But if you're interested in it,
High school kids aren't gonna be able to read cursive, Ron. You're making
well.
Very bad. Are these scanned documents by chance?
No,
So this
the only
is,
book we have is book number 1, I think, is the only one scanned out of 46 or 47 books.
so they need a lesson on preservation of fragile documents then.
So hopefully they can find one, we'll make a photocopy of it, go find it in the county road petition book, make a photocopy of that, cross-reference them, mark it on the map, and put it in the book. Now Clinton Township was done, but that's as far as they got back when they cleaned the courthouse out, you know, did away with all the extra help, cut the surveyor down, and all that kind of stuff.
I make a motion that we approve the additional $1,200 for some part-time help.
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion for Mr. Weir, second for Mr. Bose, to approve the $1,200 for extra help from the surveyor's budget. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think you're up
Just
again.
stay up there.
Yep. You're still up.
Couple more.
Alright. That was the extra help. Next is the drain that you spoke of.
Okay.
It is the additional request of $40,000 for professional services for herbicide treatment and varmint trapping.
Now that money's already been collected.
And this is coming out of that fund where of it,
Right.
they have collected.
We just have to put it in account where we can spend it. And $40,000 may be inflated somewhat. The first 3 estimates I got for rodent trapping in the Dana structure was $53,000, $46,000, and $43,000. Of course, we're not going to entertain those. I mean, I can get,
Just
I mean, I
about do
can
it
get
for
Dave to
free.
come out there and shoot them for that. So,
Get somebody
but he
to do
doesn't
it
have
for
the
free.
insurance. He's not licensed, he doesn't have the insurance. There's all kinds of regulations you gotta follow when you do that on public land, so. But I do have one bid in from a local fella that is licensed, does have his insurance, for $6,000, so I think we'll probably vote on him, Wednesday night. So 40,000 may be inflated, but we'll have it there. If we just move it over for next year, then we'll have to cover our expenses.
What's
Our
the
expense
herbicide?
for the brush treatment and brush removal along Old 36 was $3,500. And the quote to spray cattails is $2,650 a treatment. But that's for 35,000 foot of ditch too. So that's a lot.
Ron, is that coming out of the drainage, money's collected from the drainage people?
Mhm.
So that money is in the drainage thing?
It's already there, we just gotta put it in the right account and spend it. Yeah.
83.
So the professional service is going to be applying the herbicides?
Mhm.
I mean, they'll provide all the...
I've got their
Yes.
license, I've got their
You've got all
certificate of
that?
insurance, I've got,
Okay.
everything's already taken care of.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Mr. Weir, second from Mr. Somerville, to approve $40,000 to professional services for drainage maintenance. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Appropriations approved.
Thank you very much, folks.
Oh, you got one more.
Oh, I got one more?
You got one more.
Oh, yeah, I do, yes.
Third time's the charm.
I've been busy this week. This
Yep.
month.
The next additional is for the surveyor's office for $1,000 for travel to cover mileage for inspecting the regulated drains and the perpetuation of the section cornerstone monuments.
Expired my travel expense funds, fixing up the Jeep and putting a new water pump on it.
So you got receipts?
Yeah, they've all
Total
been
up to
turned in.
100 or 1,000?
Yeah,
Okay.
they've all been turned in.
Isn't that set by the state?
The mileage rate is, well, yeah, the state sets their own. So that's what we go by.
Personal
But just
vehicle
based on what I've
mileage?
been doing, that
Personal
should more
vehicle
than
mileage.
be enough at the end of the year.
The state?
Yeah, the state has a set rate that we reimburse on
Not the
personal.
IRS.
That's mileage.
Well, the IRS has one, but then the
That's one
state,
has one. We voted at some point.
To do the state.
to keep the state,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know what.
You did that with last year or so, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember why. There was a good reason. It's real smart.
I'll make the motion that we approve the additional.
I'll second that.
I have a motion for Mr. Weir, a second for Mr. Costello to approve $1,000 for travel. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Appropriation approved.
Okay,
Thanks,
now,
Brian.
thank you.
Now you're done.
Yeah. You won't eat supper.
Okay, the next additional appropriation this evening is from the Commissioners. It is the general fund. They're asking for $30,000 in professional fees. They're moving the Board of Health and the Health Office from Walnut to 700 South Main. It's across from the hospital. An establishment of coroner's office, and these are in anticipation of the expenses to cover network communications, office data drops, equipment and computer move and configuration, wireless access, software and licensing, and physical move of furniture and assets.
That was that extra.
This?
Yep. And they are here this evening if there's any further questions on that one.
So there's EAS and ICS Innovation. Is there two bids here? Okay.
EAS is providing move for the equipment, hardware, and licensing for the move, and then the ICS is providing the network cabling and the drops in 27 different drops in 15 locations.
Okay.
Basically moving everything, EAS is moving everything from their current location over to the new location there at the annex.
So that totals $17,000, $18,000?
The total will be $25,181 between the two contracts. The first one being $17,268 for ICS and $7,818 to EAS. $30,000 is to affect the move, but it appears, I'd say up to $30,000. Board of Health does have some funding already in their budget. This is going into Commissioners Court, but I believe the Board of Health has funding that will help move them from the location physically, the furniture, et cetera, and that goes along with that.
Just curious to,
This is not to exceed cost also, so it could be less.
it takes both of these companies to do that?
Yes, one is setting up the network and cabling. EAS is actually doing the software, the computer changes, the security, and the licensing for the software that goes into this.
Yeah, they're both good companies.
This is the same thing that we did at the jail. We had ICS cable the jail, or cable, set up the cables and so forth there, and then EAS came in and tied them into the county network.
Mhm. We're still looking to base an ambulance there too.
Yeah, the ambulance will remain there. There'll be a reduction in the Ileana contract. They gave up some space there that's in that annex already to the Board of Health, and so there'll be a reduction in their fees. They'll reflect in the monthly cost that will reduce that cost, but they'll stay there through December 31st.
How long will they stay in this building? Is it permanent move? Can be. Can be.
Unless we decide to give them a different location. It's permanent until we decide differently.
Okay. Well, you know, is it 3 or 4
No,
year?
well, it's a contract. I guess they can, it's a 3-year contract that we have with them. There's a provision in there for the council. If they don't fund it, then we can move out, I guess. But I don't know where you want to move them to. What we've got is about a multi-million-dollar project going into next year, and this allows them the space also to be able to occupy and spread their wings, if you will. We've opted into the state program, and with that opt-in, it provides a lot more services, and they have to account for a lot more that they're going to be doing there. It also, the coroner's never had an office. I don't know if they've ever had an office in the county. If it is, it's some time ago. And records and so forth are kept in where the coroner decides to put them. So this is going to allow the coroner not only to tie into our network, and so now we'll start having communications and have those secured, and not only secured, but have record of them, that we'll have a home for the county records also. That's still on paper and so forth. So with that, you'll see a receptionist. Right now, I'm hoping to be able to share one between the Board of Health and the coroner. Right now, he's taking phones on personal phones wherever, if they can get a hold of it and so forth. So hopefully we'll rectify that part going into next year. So those are some of the things that are going on. There's a lot of good attributes to this, and it's going to work out, I think, fairly well. I think Board of Health is excited about it.
So in the quote, is there a completion date?
Yeah. In 2 weeks, the cabling will be complete. Actually, the work orders will be drafted, but in 2 weeks, the cabling network will be complete, and 3 days before, I guess, not September 1st, but August 30th, EAS will go in and effect the move, basically the last week of August. They'll start that effective move. So about 3 days before that Friday, so whatever the Friday is, I think it's the 30th. So at the end of the month, come September 1st, they become operational at their new location.
What's the existing facility? Is that just a leased building or something?
It's the
rented?
existing facility is on Walnut Street. It was an old home, or it was a residence at one time that was modified. They took the garage and turned it into office space, or an environmentally. Anyway, it's still a garage. Has the garage doors and all with it. The offices were bedrooms and whatever was there at the residence before. Storage is basically in the rooms with the personnel for the most part. The only thing that's of any consequence is the waiting room. It is, I guess, kind of a nice waiting room. Must have been the living room at one time. But the rest of it's rather cramped quarters, shared space, basically, shared equipment.
So is this going to quadruple the floor space or something?
No, I don't have I have the number, but I don't have it with me right now.
But it is substantially.
Oh, it's substantially different, yeah. One of the things that was a problem at the Walnut location is that it doesn't have ADA access, parking that is. It has ADA ramps that go up to it, but at this location everything's on the same level, so we're not going to have the problem with parking that they've had there. Handicap parking is at the facility, and you don't have to try to find handicap parking around. Basically, it's across from the hospital. That's what the location is at. So, and it's housed with Ileana, so we basically have the coroner, Board of Health, and Ileana all in the same general location right across from the hospital. So it kind of makes a lot of sense with where we're at anyway today. Anyway, but all that's kind of decided pretty much. really, it's just funding to turn the software and hardware over to the new location, relocated. Any other questions?
This move in general will save some money over the long haul.
It saves, actually it's a cheaper alternative for the Board of Health. They'll be spending less money. I sent that all to you, I think a month or two ago. But yeah, we'll be spending less money for the Board of Health and have a coroner's office as well. So we'll be spending less than what they're spending at the current location. We have a favorable agreement with the Union Hospital. They're pretty excited about it too.
Does the next, would a new coroner who gets elected to that position, do they have the option to say, I don't want to be there, or something as a...
Coroner can go, any elected official can probably go about anywhere they want to.
Yes, that's what I meant. I didn't know if it made it...
This is an office that the county's providing to them. Right now, the coroner has no office.
Right.
So it's wherever he decides to set up shop at this point. So he has this available to him. If he wants to use it, it's available. If he doesn't want to use it, it's still available.
But if a newly elected coroner was to decide they didn't want an office there, it wouldn't affect great
Well, the
deal.
commissioners decide what office, who get what offices, so it's not that the coroner can go find another location. So that's unless the commissioners agree to it.
Okay.
So this is what we're providing at this point anyway.
Any other questions?
Thank you guys. Or
No,
do I have
appreciate
money?
it. We'll find out here in just a second. Thank you, Britton.
Maybe.
They want to say Brittany's done a lot of work on this, a lot of committed to the investment. Definitely improved. I think he helped with it.
Appreciate your time into it.
Fits in with the future ambulance service too, possibly, huh?
There's other alternatives there too.
Now that's being the health department would be there. That's in the almost the extreme far south end of the county. Does that have any impact on anyone else at the extreme north end of the county? Has there ever been any complaints about that?
Considered that. Right now, 50% of the population sits south of Highway 36. Right now, there's at Walnut Street location. At one time, when I first started office, I wanted to move them to Newport, and that doesn't really make sense either. At this point in time, for the short term anyway, short term meaning the next 3 years plus, until we start seeing different dynamics in the county, it still kind of makes sense to be in that location. I'm hoping that in the next 10 years, though, that we're going to see some change in dynamics with the I-74 corridor, 163 corridor, and things at the rise, where we will eventually want to move them. This doesn't necessarily have to be a permanent location for perpetuity. It can be a location here for now, though, and it will serve the population. Board of Health, one of the things that we're looking at with the ambulance bay, and I don't know if the plans are totally in place, is starting to look at clinics and being able to place those up into the northern part of the county so that there's a turnover, well, not turnover, but I don't know what the right word is, but where we can have Board of Health available at certain times in the northern part of the county, most in the northern part of the county. And that's one thing I'd like to work with them to see if we can get something done with that. With the new funding, I think it's going to be almost obligatory to be able to do those type things. And if we ever do get the new ambulance bay put in there, one of the things I wanted to do is actually be able to start setting up clinics in that. There's 2 offices that are set up for records and some other things that I think that we can actually start using those for more of the clinical type things, be able to provide the shots, the prescriptions, the drugs. I think that's all you did.
Yeah.
You want to add anything to that?
We are.
That's my thoughts too. It's not the Board of Health's thoughts.
Right.
So.
We are, even last year, we did clinics throughout the whole entire county. So we partnered with the Indiana Department of Health, and they also helped us, and we're doing the same this year. So it is our goal to be, we're looking at doing some satellite clinics through the north end as well. So.
I think that's where we're at this point in time. Again, in 10 years, hopefully the dynamics change, the population changes in the county. And then it also gets back to how do we want to fund things going into the future too. So the council will have a role in that where it ends up at. But if you want to build a new facility here in Newport, I'm happy with that too.
Would anyone entertain a motion?
Motion made.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Mr. Weir, second from Mr. Bose, to approve the $30,000 to professional services. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Appropriations approved. The next additional appropriation is also in the general fund. It is for the sheriff. The sheriff's elected official position is due for a pay increase due to the state statute. It is $962.
Is that annual?
Sheriff's pay is set by statute 50% of what the judge and a full-time elected prosecutor makes. The judges and full-time prosecutors receive a pay raise. Therefore, when you do the math, the sheriff is underpaid by $962.
Good. Does that need a vote?
Yes.
If we have to do it, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
A second.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Brown and a second from Ms. Brown.
I have a question though. Is this tacked onto his annual salary or is this a
Yes.
one-time?
It'll be like, it'll
Just to
increase
catch
his, yeah.
To catch up, okay.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Appropriations approved. Do we have a salary ordinance to go along with that? Okay, we'll have that one. So we can do that. Sorry. Alright, the next additional appropriation is from the Parks Department. This is also a general fund account. They are asking for an additional $88,400 to be put into capital outlays. It says 42 trees at a total of $21,000, 2 restrooms at $10,700, a trailhead park restroom at $14,700, and a truck at $42,000. Is there anyone here from the Parks Department tonight that would like to come up and, Mike? Okay. Okay.
I would like to go over the list of why we're asking for what we are, the appropriation. We have 4 workers, 1 truck. If we have 2 pickups, we can spread these people out and be a lot more efficient. Trees, before the first storm, I counted the stumps just in Miller Park, and there was 45. So that's happened over the years. Since then, we've had 15 trees go down at Miller Park, 3 at Perrysville, 2 at Hillsdale, 1 at Dana, for a total of 21 trees this year. And we don't know how many that's still standing is going to have to be cut because they're damaged, got things tree limbs hanging out of them. And, we would like to replace 40 of the trees this year. Then we have a mower expense of $3,000. Then we go to the restrooms. We wanted flushable restrooms in our county. And we've got some of the buildings built, but they're not complete. Blanford still needs a septic, a little bit of plumbing and some lumber. Ernie Pyle Rest Park needs septic, plumbing, and some lumber. They had a door kicked in over the winter. Dana needs to hook up to the sewer. Trailhead, we're supposed to build something out there for them. They don't have any water or electricity, so it'll be known as a drop toilet. Anyway, all this together is, we're asking for $77,000.
It's not 88.4. Am I looking at the wrong, 88.4?
That's the
That was,
original.
that
Oh,
was
okay.
the original what we
That was
did.
the
There's one
original.
going there that
Okay.
has the
Sorry.
Yeah, we've been over this thing 3 or 4 times, trying to scale it down some. And, originally, we was up around 100,000. We've been, instead of replacing every tree that was gone, we're gonna go with 40 right now.
At $500 a piece.
That's what I'm.
What?
$500 a piece?
A tree?
That's planting them.
Well,
Them are,
You go.
I know
here's
what
the
you
thing.
want to do.
If you go to a grower and buy them, they're never guaranteed. If you go to a retailer and you buy them, they guarantee them for 1 year. That figure is when they come, they'll bring them, they dig the hole, they plant them, they fertilize them, and mulch them.
you know, when I want to plant a tree, I just go to the woods. And plant it myself, and it might cost a couple dollars for gas, but
Well,
They
I
do
don't think
grow.
this figure here is out of line because I had a landscaper plant 4 trees in my yard, and that's about what they were about 8 years ago.
well,
and this price is all for good hardwood trees. So they'll
And it's
be,
gonna
there'll
be,
be nice trees in the
all
park.
of them not gonna be the same.
like I say, there's lots of them out in the woods, guys. I mean, take a little back, I'm serious. And they don't have to be 10, 15, 20 foot tall trees when you plant them. They grow pretty fast. I mean,
I wish my dad was still alive, I'd have him talk to you about that. He lived by the woods and he went out and dug them and planted them in his yard.
so did I. Well,
They didn't do too well.
I got some growing in Dana that did great. Still growing.
Are these restroom projects things that you anticipate having done this year?
What?
Are the restrooms, all of these different projects between the Blandford, Ernie Pyle, Dana, and the Trailhead, are those projects you're wanting to complete by the end of '23? Or is this like, something you'll do in '23 and 2024?
We have completed restrooms at Perrysville, Hillsdale, and Miller Park.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have 2 buildings built, but we have to put the fixtures in them, hook up to the septic and things like that. At Blandford and Dana. Then we're supposed to build one at Trailhead.
The reason I ask is because if we appropriate it in here for '23, but the projects don't get done by December 31st, then the money goes back out of the account, and then we have to redo it again in January. So I didn't know if this is all projects for '23, like that you anticipate being able to accomplish, or if it's something that'll go into '24 where it could be like
We plan
separated.
on having those done if we have the money.
Okay.
The building at Blandford and Dana, not to interrupt, Mike, they're built. They're sitting there waiting on us to put septic in and hook up, put the fixtures in and everything. Trailhead, we had the gentleman that laid the blocks at Blandford and Dana also gave us a bid on laying the blocks at Trailhead so we could get that put up. That's just a matter of his bid, that's his bid to do it, furnish the blocks and build the building. And it's a pit toilet, so that would be done as soon as he got the blocks laid.
Okay.
So at the Trailhead right now, you have a porta-john there, right?
Yes.
Okay, at the other facilities, you have porta-johns there, or?
Blandford has an old restroom, Dana doesn't have anything right now.
Okay, I was gonna say, I've been by, but I didn't see
And
anything.
if any of you has been by Dana and seen the playground equipment we put in there, it is loaded with kids now, and they need a bathroom done. It's just one of them situations where, with the budget cut last year and everything that got cut, we haven't had the money to do all this.
I have a concern because I live in Clinton and the restrooms aren't even available half of the time because of vandalism. You know, people putting stuff down, so I mean, is that, you know, I'm just afraid we're gonna get into, have you had any trouble with that?
Oh, sure. See, this is another thing that drives the price up, because when we go to put fixtures in there, we can't put the fixtures like you would in your home. We have to use stainless steel so they won't break them.
Well, I guess they were putting rocks. My boyfriend used to work for the city, and they were putting kids and vandals, whatever, putting rocks and everything down in this, just vandals, you know. And there's a sign. I walk at Sportland Park quite a bit, and it says bathrooms are closed certain times because of vandalism. They're not even open half the time because of that. So you know, and if these are secluded places, I know you need restrooms, but I'm just.
And the other thing is on doors, when we first started, we were putting doors in them with wood frames. They just kept those right out.
See that?
So now you put in steel doors with steel frames, and they cost $1,100 a piece.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just and
It's
trees.
just the way of the world today.
Oh, I know, but it's sad. You know, it's costing taxpayers, you know. And then the trees, I know you don't want, you know, and then I know you want trees, but then if they blow down, you know what I mean? We're replacing ones that have.
But
and
what's a
there you
park
go,
without trees?
$21,000. Yeah, I don't know.
And I have a question that I've asked before and I've never got an answer, and I know this is not the right place to ask it, but we have to turn in a list every year for insurance. Do we have any insurance on all these trees as part of the park? Nobody can answer that question for us. We had full-size hard maple trees that's been there for 50 years, totally uprooted, they're gone. That's what we're trying to replace.
I give you the answer.
Okay, I mean, yeah, we don't know if they are or not.
As far as the truck goes, so this would be an additional truck?
Yes.
Okay, in the past when we've received requests for additional vehicles, we have recommended that you go to the commissioners first because that is considered a county asset. And so they are in charge of the county assets. We would like their blessing on county assets because it is a cost for the insurance, the liability, all the different things. And that is under their realm, not necessarily ours. So as far as the truck goes, the first step would probably be talking to them in regards to adding something. And so I don't think that's something we can necessarily decide this evening until that's been discussed with them, if that's something they want to add. Adding additional vehicles does add a lot of cost. One with the vehicle and then maintenance, upkeep, mileage, gas. I mean, it does have effect, so that's why we first ask you to go to the commissioners on that, since they are responsible for the county assets. But the mower repairs, is it inoperable at this time? Like, do you need that money to get it fixed currently?
But we have 4 mowers.
Okay.
So we can hold off for a little bit, but it's nice to have them all running. But, you know, this year's been a terrible year because we've had 2 storms go through the park, and we've had chainsaws running almost day and night.
I'm sure. I'm sure you've had a lot of limbs. I mean, it might be something that we could do a partial appropriation if anyone wanted to. I hate to see you have mowers and then not be able to use them, you know. And as far as the restroom projects, I don't know if anyone has any ideas.
So you need 2 restrooms. You need to build 2 restrooms, is that right?
We have 2 restrooms under construction right now. The buildings are built, just ready for the fixtures and hooking them up to the septic or the sewer.
Okay, so that was my question, was 10,700 didn't seem like enough if they weren't, but they're already built, so that's a
Did that get done?
substantial part of the cost.
Neil, that
Oh,
sheet
I-
there has
You guys
the
need a
sheet
copy,
for
I'm sorry.
the amount.
You guys need another
Yeah,
copy?
that's
You
updated.
got
I
one?
don't
Yeah,
have
there you go.
this.
I did,
So,
it's updated.
If you add the cost of, Blandford was 7,500, Ernie Pyle Rest Park was 4,000, Dana 7,500, and the Trailhead Pit Toilets 10,000 for a total of 29,000 for restrooms. That's what that paper summarizes.
Okay. Is the truck, would that be registered in the commissioner's court or in the commissioner's name, or would it be in the park board?
I assume it would go underneath the county assets because then it would be in the fleet policy. I don't know. Is that correct?
Belongs to all assets belong to the county commissioners.
That's, okay.
I think you could get by without that second truck myself, but
Well, perhaps in a budget it for the following year or something, it's kind of a long-term purchase. I think it, been a short truck for quite some time, forever.
Now, that amount for the truck is for a used truck.
That's what I was gonna ask, cause
Yeah.
42 to 25, so that's a big jump.
You know, when you go look at used trucks and you see a 2017 with 100,000 miles, they still want 20 or 25,000 for it.
Definitely not pretty right now. I'm sure.
What kind of a truck is this?
Just a pickup.
To
We have the pickup we have now is a 4-door, and we really don't want all of our people riding in the truck at the same time, going to the same place when we got work 2 or 3 different places,
couldn't you drop 2 of them off at one place onto the next job?
What if one of them gets hurt? You got to do a transportation to take them anywhere.
Well, that's what you call 911, I guess. That'd be the case for everybody, wouldn't it?
Two mowers is about all we can get on our trailer.
Maybe we need to get you a new trailer.
Of the restrooms, is the trailhead needed bad versus the other ones just getting finished?
Yes, it's gonna be just like an old-fashioned outhouse, a drop toilet. Because they don't have any power, any water.
Okay.
So what we're gonna have, like a cement pad, then he's gonna come up with blocks, and we'll have a floor, and then come on up with the building.
You're renting a porta pot now and paying to get it cleaned out? You're renting, so there's savings there?
What now?
Are you renting a porta pot right now?
That's what we're using, yeah.
You rent it or you own it?
Rent it.
The trailhead's renting it, we're not.
And then they get it, cost to clean it out, so.
So, if the money's not all available, can we prioritize, can you guys prioritize, do one project this year as far as restrooms and another one next year and another one the following year? Or, I know you're asking for everything now, and I probably see the need, but if the money's not available, we could prioritize these, is that correct?
We'd have to do what you give us,
Yeah.
I would like to say that I would think that Dana and Blandford needs finished.
Okay.
There's 2 parks that has a lot of people in it. Blandford has a ton of reunions. Dana has stuff now with the kids and everything they're both being used. Our parks, I don't know if you're familiar, but our parks are getting used a lot now. The kids are coming out, the people are coming out. I know this is, I'm in here, but Perrysville, we have a walking trail at Perrysville like Cayuga has. We just put in 5 workout stations around Perrysville Trail, which kind of makes it a CrossFit place now. Duke Energy actually donated money to help pay for it. But we've got them installed, and it is absolutely every day. Tons of people down there just walk the trail, stop, do your exercises, go to the next one. And it's getting used. And Dana's same way, Blandford's same way. Blandford just has a new walking trail. It's not like we haven't been doing that. We've been spending money. We just put what was it, Becky, $43,000 trail in Blandford? Is that what that cost?
Right, and that was 3 grants.
Yeah, but anyway, we've got stuff going on. We're trying to get people to come out and use them. You gotta have a bathroom there. You just gotta have, who wants to go to a reunion when you're sitting there with all this food and go use the bathroom and use a pit toilet and there's no place to wash your hands or nothing? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make them nice for everybody.
I will say I've used the parks, but I have not used Blandford. And we're doing a good job. You guys are doing a good job. So.
Now, this past weekend, they had a Frisbee golf tournament at Miller Park. And the people, they liked it.
That's great. I think we're all on board with the restroom part of this, aren't we? I mean, we gotta, like I say, gotta keep them going.
if you did the restrooms, that's 29,000. The repairs are 3,000 for a total of 32.
What about funds left for the ARP?
We have, I mean,
If you ain't got the budget, I mean,
the ARP money, we typically have the commissioners kind of approve it, and then here, I mean, we have advertised this request, so it could come out. I mean, it would require probably 2 more meetings and more advertising if they did it that way, but they could. I mean, it is a possibility.
Can I say one more thing? I understand the truck situation, no problem. I mean, we totally understand that. And the restrooms is a priority. If we have to cut back on the trees, we have to cut back on the trees, we understand that. But the restrooms is something we really need to look at.
Are there any programs with the state that could get trees planted or something like that through?
DNR has some stuff going on, but I don't know what they've got right now. I haven't got up to date on it. I need to check back with them.
I got a bunch of trees from them one time and planted them. They grew really tall, and I moved. So, but I would, I mean, if they only have one pickup truck, I mean, I know the additional cost of vehicles, but one does sound a little shy on. But, you know, could that be budgeted in or request for next year's budget or something like that, or many other options? Maybe there's
If they wanna
other
go to-
vehicles available. I know.
I mean, that would be my recommendation, is that they speak with the commissioners first, see what they have in availability on their insurance budget, and then
Yeah, they gotta-
with budget hearings coming up, I mean, that is something they can always ask for. We can see where we're at.
I mean, if they could work on 2 parks at once instead of just everybody going to one, you know, I don't know their operation, but
That's our total thing right now. Like Mike said, we haul 2 lawnmowers when we go. So used to, when we had 3 people, the 2 guys would jump on the lawnmowers and the other guy would do the trimming and stuff, and they'd do a park. Well, now that we've got 4, the whole idea was, eventually we wanted to try to get another vehicle. So just like with these restrooms, the guys do, not only do they do the mowing and everything, but they're the ones that actually built these restrooms. So now, if they want to go work on a restroom today, all 4 of them go to work on the restroom today, and nobody's getting any. So if we had 2 vehicles, 2 of them could take 2 mowers, go mow somewhere, 2 of them could go work on the restroom or whatever, and that's what we're trying to get at. So it's just more efficient for everybody.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we complete the 2 restrooms that we already got started, and we make mower repairs, because they need those
Absolutely.
working in order to do the work. So I'm just gonna say $15,000.
15,000.
Yeah,
Opposed.
for 10,000 for the restrooms. Is that
Opposed.
10,000 does both?
I think you
We're
got
talking Dana and Blandford.
Dana and Blandford would be
Gave you my paper.
14,000.
Well, it's 29 for all 3.
It would be 32 if you did restrooms and repairs.
Yeah.
15 for the 2 bathrooms.
We can do the 2 bathrooms and fix the mowers. I think that's the most critical.
I think they got 3, they got
It's about,
Dana, 3 Pine.
it would be about 18, Rick.
18?
With the mower.
18 with the mower.
7,500 at each restroom and 3 for the mower.
So that'd be my recommendation, is 18,000? And that can be done this year?
Yes.
For the 2
So
bathrooms.
my motion.
Not Trailhead. just
Not
the 2.
Trailhead.
Okay.
And not Ernie Poe.
Are you saying Ernie Pyle
Ernie
too?
Pyle is basically a remodel.
Okay.
And
Just like me, like 2,000.
So 8, if we just do 18, you can, that'll get you down the road, let's put it that way, and then we can look at next year.
get the 2 finished completely and the mower fixed and hopefully start on Ernie Pyle.
Okay.
It won't get finished, but we can start on it, I think.
Okay.
Don't you think so?
So that's my motion.
We'll do some tree shopping.
Is there a
We'll
second?
look around, see what we can find. We talked to the state a couple of times, but each time back, well, we haven't talked to them since these last storms come through and blowed all the rest of them down.
All right.
I'll second.
All right, thank you.
I'll contact you.
Okay.
All
So
right, I
it's
have,
18,000?
yeah, I have a motion for Mr. Weir and a second for Mr. Bose to approve $18,000 for capital outlays for the Parks Department. Is there any further discussion?
That's 7,500 each of Blandford and Dana, and 3,000 for the mowers?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. All right. 18,000 is approved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, and if you get a chance, visit our parks.
We will.
Oh, they're
Thank you.
great. They've done a lot of work on it.
Yeah. Who has the park? Oh, Neil. Hey.
I'm sorry?
Brenda needs a copy of that when you get a chance.
I
Do you
have
have
right
one?
now.
Thank
You
you.
won't want mine.
I
Mine's all
wrote on it
messed
too.
up now.
He wrote on it too.
That's what I did.
too.
Mine looks like a fire drill.
Do you have, did you write on your copy of the trail thing?
Okay.
You write on it?
Got lots of colors going on there.
18's a lot better than that.
Where is this?
Yeah, when I was upside down.
He wrote on it last.
All right, our next additional appropriation this evening is from the Vermillion County Health Department. This is to set up their emergency preparedness grant for the grant year of July 2023 to June 30th, 2024. This is to set up their budget. They do operate mid-year versus the regular calendar year, so that's why we have them now. This is the one we have every year. And then if you also want to look at the next additional appropriation, it is for the also for the health department. It's for their vaccine grant. Doesn't look like anything's changed a whole lot. Wendy's here if you have questions, but these are their two regular ones that they have every year that we do set up mid-year for their budgets. And we can do them together, separately. No. It's your
Do them
choice.
together.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we approve them.
All right.
We'll second
All right. I have a motion for Mr. Weir and a second for Mr. Somerville to establish the Emergency Preparedness Grant and the Local Health Department in the United States grant budgets. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Appropriations approved. Thank you, Wendy. All right. The next additional appropriation this evening is from the prosecutor's office. It is for the drug interdiction program. They did receive a check in the amount of $6,773.50 from the LLC to purchase drug toolkits and drug tests to get the program started. They are asking if we will put this in their supply budget line so that they can buy those items that they need.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion from Mr. Brown, a second from Mr. Bose. To put the $66,770.50 in supplies. Any further discussion? All those in
What?
favor? Oh, go ahead.
What's the drug toolkit? I mean, is that a starter pack for somebody to?
Start the pot.
Yeah, the reason come with a crack pipe and, seriously, I don't know, what is it?
Toolkits to take cars apart.
Take cars apart?
Yeah.
Search.
Oh, to search the vehicles. I
Oh.
guess.
Wow.
Any other discussion? Any other questions?
I guess I learned something.
I did. I've learned something too.
Yeah.
All right.
Take the seats out, door panels off, all that fun stuff.
All right. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Appropriation approved. Sorry it took so long. All right, and last but not least for this evening, we have one additional appropriation left. It is Redevelopment Commission. They're asking for $72,000, for $55,000 for professional services, other services and charges of $5,000, and property acquisition of $12,000. This is their fund from the TIF district. They currently have $91,752.54 in their account. So they do.
400,000.
Okay. It's 401, and then this one additional almost 92.
Was it Mike's bill?
Pardon?
The Mike's bill for 55,000?
Mike Argento had the option Doug and Chris Agee from our jail are here, but still, I don't know. No, we still have most people here.
No, Chris,
Are there any questions?
So somebody want to explain the $55,000 for professional services?
I can, or Doug's here, he can do it. Chris is.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Doug and Chris.
Chris Egan is here from RJL Solution, but as many of you know, we're in the process of working on this countywide daycare, and there are a lot of moving parts, and I'm learning more about childcare than I ever thought was possible. So one of the things that Redevelopment and Economic Development is working with is a company like RJL Solutions to kind of help us through the process. There's a couple things that we're going to need is to make sure that we are picking and listening to individuals that know, especially when it comes to the architect, of how the building needs to be set up, but also more importantly is making sure that we get the right group of individual that's going to be certified to help us in the process to make sure that we can run this effectively and efficiently. So I'll turn it over to Chris and let him give a little talk about that.
Yeah, he basically explained it all. Thanks, Doug. Basically, our team's going to help hold the community forums, do the surveys to collect all the data, compile it all to bring to the commissioners in a full report. That will help us source the operator, whether it's different partnerships with existing ones in the area or franchises that we could bring in to help run it professionally because of all the certifications. And all that also feeds into ISU and Ivy Tech because they have to train all your new, child care workers as well. So there's a lot that goes into aggregating all that data and compiling it. Some of it already exists, especially in the Terre Haute area, but we need to find out what's specific to your community with all that.
So you will be working for what time frame?
September, October.
And is this a licensed state? Is that what, licensed by the state?
You mean the facility?
Yeah, the facility.
Yes. I mean, the goal will be.
The goal will be.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's not what I thought you were asking. I was trying to interrupt, but yes, yeah.
Part of that is also for the architect.
Yes.
Like Halstead, they've actually started. I just got, I don't know if you guys saw them yet, I don't know who all they emailed them to, but they just sent out the first set of
drawings
today. So it's kind of interesting to see. But as Doug said, every time we meet about these things, and meet with people about these things, I don't know if Doc's still here. We had a meeting last week, Ashley and I did, Doug with ISU, Doc was there. I mean, there's this, there's that, there's this, there's that.
There's a lot of regulations with the
Yeah.
childcare.
Yeah.
So we need, none of us know how to do any of this. We need to bring in some help to help us make sure that when we do this, it's feasible financially, it's feasible structurally, and feasible that the need is there to do it.
Right.
So, and then Chris didn't mention this, but we will also be they'll be assisting us in trying to find some funding to pull this off without having to dip in any tax dollars, do renovations, anything like that. So, and these kind of expenses will all ultimately count towards the match for those grant opportunities. And it is coming from the TIF.
Yes. It's not general fund money.
Right.
It is their TIF allocation.
What's the location on this?
School.
School.
Yep.
They just locked the doors.
We're trying to put kids back in it. Childcare has been one of the biggest comments or concerns I think we've gotten somewhat through economic development, through other research. It just seems like there is a great need for it in our county. Over and over again, I know over the last many years, it's just been a reoccurring theme that has come up. So we're trying to find a solution to the problem.
Hopefully it's fast too, because building sets idle, they tend to dilapidate quickly if you're not maintaining it. So
Gotta keep heating up.
The school board meeting next week, they approved an option agreement. Redevelopment Commission has approved the option agreement, they don't have the money to pay the option right now. But the school is required to keep it, maintained, they don't have to go in and paint it, but keep the air on, keep the heat on, keep the water running. They're keeping the grass cut. And that option agreement is intended to help offset the costs that they're going to incur in.
Is that why all the playground equipment never made it to the middle school?
No, I don't know.
They're going to leave quite a bit of it, I think, depending on what happens. They're going to take what they want, and they've left. Go see the kitchen in that place. It's fantastic. We're going to have a jail go down there if we need to, because it's great.
Anybody else have questions? No?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Does anyone have any thoughts on this?
Well, no, I'm on board. I mean, it's gonna be very beneficial to this county.
I think Elanco's shown a lot of support. haven't they?
Absolutely.
You know what, Union Hospital, there's been a
We
few.
have not met with the union yet. Chris is going to help us schedule some meetings with, Doug has talked to all that. Doug, have you talked to the union yet, or have you just talked?
I have not spoken.
Valley Health, he's talked to Valley Health, but
Yeah.
they're very excited.
Yeah.
And I assume union's reaction is, I don't know yet. We're going to, that's one of the people we want to meet with soon. We've met with Lonco.
And this will be available to anybody from anywhere, basically.
It's not just Elanco, I mean, it's located well for Elanco employees, of course, because it's 3-4 miles away from their plant. It's also close to Lights Construction too. Our 4 biggest employers are close by. Union, we're hoping that Union is supportive of our efforts as well. We'll see.
If I may say, this opportunity doesn't come about all the time. It's something that Vermilion County needs. It's an opportunity that's out there, and what Murray Pile closing and allowing redevelopment to reopen this for Vermilion County, not just South Vermilion, North Vermilion. And we need to get the legal terms straight, and that's what this money's all about right now, is to make sure we put everything in place. How do you take care of a 6-month-old child? You have to have the right person at that point. How do you take care of a 5-year-old child? How many? That's what they're doing legally. And I don't think anyone on redevelopment understands that. These people do.
Do we foresee this becoming self-supporting or a county liability?
That is part of the research that we're also doing in that, is the estimates on all, just researching everything so we have it all in an idea before we start something. Instead of, I mean, that's part of what our jail is going to help us with too, is doing those estimates for us of projections.
It's probably not going to be a money maker.
It's generally not, but
but we're going to. We met with ISU last week, and we're going to try and work on what we expect and anticipate the operational costs to be. I would not be surprised, Jeff, if there has to be some TIF support annually to help offset some of the operational costs of the facility. Just because that's why this is why we don't have these things springing up everywhere. Because they were like McDonald's and made money, and then everybody built them. But they're not.
Will this affect the Valley Daycare in any way?
The Valley Daycare is full,
Yeah.
and Valley does not do. Doug can address this better than I can, but what we've been hearing is it's the little kids that are they don't have any place licensed for
under 3.
6 weeks old, 6
Infants.
weeks to 3 years. It's the toddlers in that age group that's severely impacted.
Even the Terre Haute Child Care Centers have wait list of almost 100%.
Yeah, we met with a couple of folks at Terre Haute, and ISU's got a facility right now that they're looking to double the size of theirs. There's a movement afoot. Chris can address this. There's a desire to build another brand new one on the east side of Terre Haute. When you start to hear about this thing, you start to see these articles and news stories about child care. There was a headline in Annapolis yesterday. There was some sort of committee meeting about this being a statewide issue, lack of education facilities. And the reason this came to redevelopment is because Elanco, among others, had come to economic development and said one of the problems we have with getting people to come to Marin County is they say, well, where am I going to put my kid in?
Yeah.
And they don't have a choice. And so they have a difficult time recruiting and attracting people and retaining people. So the idea at first was not already filed, but when already filed became available, Kelly's the one who actually, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but Kelly's like, what about already filed? And everybody's like, yeah, that would be. And it's, we'll see.
It's a great facility. Don't ISU have a wait list like 100 kids or something?
They've got 86 seats, I think she said, and they have a wait list 100 long, and they stop it at 100.
Well, there's a big demand.
And Union, we're going to meet with Union. Has there's two, I think there's two, and Chris, I think there's two. These things get rated. I didn't know they get stars, and if you're 4-star, that's the best. Yeah, and so there's 2 4-star facilities in Terre Haute, I believe, Union and ISU's. And they told the director of ISU's site told me that they get people calling from Robinson, Illinois, trying to get in there. So it's, not every, I'm trying to do it. Not everybody has. Forget about it. Not everybody has family, and not everybody has relations. So.
If I may, I'd like to
Yeah.
have we don't know what the numbers are yet, because we haven't done a study. Right. So, but you guys know how many people leave your county and go work in Terre Haute every day. And so there's a huge number that transport their kids to child care facilities as they come into work, whether it's Union or ISU that have established child care facilities, or they're going somewhere else. We don't know what that number is. So having this child care facility in your county allows them to stay here while they go to work. And it alleviates some of that overburden that's happening in Vigo County. The benefit of having the child care facility here in your community is the 2,000 plus jobs that are now being seeked just in manufacturing alone and the casino in Vigo County. They're recruiting currently, trying to bring in professionals to fill those roles. And if you have child care capacity, quality child care capacity in Vermilion County, now they're looking at living in Vermilion County, and they're not looking at living in Vigo County because there's no child care, there's no housing. Housing's a level playing field. Everybody has a housing problem. So it's not really disadvantaged for Vermilion County because every county has that problem right now. So having this child care facility is an advantage that puts your community ahead of everybody else because that capacity doesn't exist anywhere else. So I thought I'd just add that.
Thanks, Chris.
I'll make a motion.
There you go. Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Brown, a second from Mr. Somerville for the approval of the total of $72,000 for the redevelopment commission from their allocation fund. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Appropriations approved. Alright. That is the end of additional appropriations. That was a long one tonight. Yeah. Old business, I don't believe we have any this evening. We do have a couple items under new business. The first item is the Oregon solar tax abatement. This is the preliminary reading of the abatement. It is, find the right number, resolution number 2023-11. Preliminary declaratory resolution for the creation of an economic revitalization area for real and personal property tax abatement for Vermilion Rise Solar LLC. They have requested a 10-year 100% abatement. And this abatement is contingent upon the decommissioning agreement and road use agreement required under the Economic Development Agreement. As I stated before, it is a preliminary reading. A final reading has to be approved as well. I would need a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Right? The company is here if we have questions, or if they would like to speak anything. I mean, you're welcome to. I mean, I don't know, whichever you'd like to do. So, if you want to give like a brief overview of your project, of what you can give us. Yeah.
Hi. Good evening. So I'm introduce myself. I'm Allie Trunza. I'm the development manager for Oridan on this project.
Seth Wilmore. I'm the chief development officer at Oridan. Nice to meet you.
We're based out of Pittsburgh, so we had a fun drive in the rain today. But happy to be here with you. Talk about drainage areas. Whew, we saw some on the way here. Let me tell you. But so both of us have been working on this project for several years now, called Vermilion Rise Solar. It's a 185 megawatt utility scale solar project anchored at the Vermilion Rise Mega Park. We have a purchaser for the power, the Indiana utility CenterPoint Energy. We received our special exception permit for the project back in late 2021 from the BZA. And we've also been working through a lot of site diligence studies in the meantime as well, doing delineations, geotech investigations, a lot of stuff out there, getting the project ready. So right now, just overview of our project schedule. We are looking at a target operation date for the facility in late 2026. We're currently in interconnection studies with what's called the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, or MISO. Yep, not MISO, MISO. Made that mistake once. Right now we've been kind of working through studies with them. It's been almost a 2-year delay so far, but we do have some initial results, which is good. So that timeline, that target COD date in 2026 is based on MISO's current schedule, as well as preliminary schedules that we've gotten from Duke Energy. They have the substation that the facility would be directly delivering power to into the grid, right? So they will have their own facilities they need to construct there. So in the SB1 forms, along with this preliminary resolution, you'll see an outside date of 2028 for operation. That is being driven by some of the uncertainties around MISO's schedule, anticipating potentially some delays with them, as well as Duke's timeframe. We also have some network upgrades elsewhere on the system. We understand that would be completed to support this project's interconnection. These are all identified in those interconnection studies. And there are going to be time frames associated with that too. So from the, I'll call it like papering aspect, that's why we look for the flexibility in those outside dates, just recognizing, and we're not the only ones going through this, but that's where we are right now. So we're going to get it online as soon as we can. So the total investment that we have estimated is around $273 million for the solar project. That's split about 60-40 within the RISE versus outside of the RISE. We could see that number fluctuate, right? We don't have final contracting or some of the equipment procured. So as we see those, that number might change a little bit. So that's also reflected on the SB1 form. We set a floor there with minimum investment of $225 million. Like you mentioned, similar to most renewable energy projects in Indiana, requesting a 100% real and personal property tax abatement for 10 years. And based on that estimated investment, that would part of that agreement would be a $10.8 million economic development agreement payment to the county made over 4 years. In addition to that, there are other economic benefits of the project as well. We're probably looking at several hundred construction jobs during peak construction, as well as 1 to 2 full-time equivalents during operation. That is also reflected on the SB1 forms. Following the abatement period, increased tax revenues for both the county as well as within the RISE. I think that's roughly $2 million per year to the TIF district. I know the county's staring down at the more coal retirements at the Cayuga Generating Station. That's going to be some lost assessed value. This project would be a partial replacement of some of that assessed value lost from those retirements, as well as hopefully some downward pressure on county tax rates. And we've also been utilizing local companies as we work through this site diligence. So we have an agreement with IEA White Construction. They've overseen and done a lot of the site diligence work out there, especially on the geotechnical side. Also worked with Hennessy Surveying to do all of our boundary surveys, utility surveys, which you can imagine in the RISE there's a lot out there to pick up, and some regional companies as well. So, yeah, I think with that.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, the last thing I'd just add on those companies is our work thus far with White, Hennessy, it just sets them up well for continued work, pre-construction surveys, post-construction surveys, the actual construction site. It sets them up well in terms of the work they've done, the existing relationship, to get further workforce, for sure.
Any questions for us on the...
I gotta ask, where's all these solar panels coming from?
Right, yeah, so they could come from a variety of sources. So currently, the U.S. is really ramping up its solar capacity. There's one main provider in the U.S. for solar that provide, U.S. manufacturers. But we are seeing, actually, I could list more than a dozen companies that are making commitments around building new manufacturing in the U.S. But as of today, there's only a couple built. So most of the time, you'll see solar manufacturers building and assembling their panels in Southeast Asia and then shipping them over. Not many things are being bought from China, but you'll see countries like South Korea, India, Malaysia have most of the solar panels that are being manufactured. And it's really just a matter of lack of manufacturing capacity. Because most developers would tell you, if you had the option, if there was the capacity to buy panels that are sourced in the U.S., and you don't have to worry about shipping and other types of risk, you'd rather buy where you could just ship something more easily.
Could you at least promise us that it'll be from one of our allies and definitely not China?
Nothing from Putin or Kim.
Or Xing. Okay. That's important to me.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, so that's, we talked about the equipment a little bit. A lot of what we're looking at is, okay, who are those manufacturers in the U.S. that are going to have the capacity available for this project? Because this is a larger project. Who's going to have the capacity that we could source in that time frame? Because that is a big item. We want to be online by 2026. Now, it takes, for better or for worse, in the U.S., it takes a lot of time to permit and build manufacturing. It's much different. And so, we have to look and see, okay, is that capacity going to be there for us to procure?
I have a question. So as long as local companies can supply the workers, the equipment, everything, your intent is to use local people?
Yeah, that's certainly our preference. So what we would do, and that's reflected in the work we've done, so far. And so what we we have to go out for competitive bids, right? That's kind of a mandate internally. But when we go out for competitive bids, we would include something like an exhibit that say, okay, if you're the overarching construction contractor, the main EPC, who are those subs that we would prefer you reach out to and get pricing? You know, we're going to give you that list. So anybody who's local, we try and work with them, and we've just done this on a portfolio of 100 megawatts in Pennsylvania and Virginia. We give them a list of preferred bidders and ask that they solicit pricing, so those local companies are not overlooked when you get the large construction company who oversees it but doesn't have all, as you just said, all the staff to build the project. That's how we would try and handle that. And that results in us getting, you know, from what we've done on our projects, that's gotten us local civil subs, that's gotten us local aggregate, that's gotten us local electrical subs, local fence, those types of things.
I think the last time I listened to the presentation, you had talked about the special exception to the MISO permit. Was that something that got delayed, or, you know, there was like a critical point you were trying to get an exception and to move the project ahead? That's been taken care of?
I don't know about it. I know we were, like I mentioned, we had experienced about 2 years of delay getting our initial study from MISO. I think that might be what you're thinking of here. And yeah, we did receive those initial results. They have a 3-step study process. So there's phase 1, which is your initial results. Phase 2, they get a little more in the weeds, called a facility study. No, not that. System impact study. And then the last one, phase 3, is a facility study where they're really hammering out those final details before you actually sign your interconnection agreement with them. So yeah, I think that's what you're thinking of. Yes, we did get those initial results. Yeah.
And those are critical because those initial results really will give you, again, it's not a final cost, but the cost and the network upgrades that the project needs to do to be able to deliver its power to the grid. And what was really important from those is it wasn't a number that was completely cost prohibitive for the project.
And there was also discussion about some long lead items, very expensive, like a transformer or something that you had to deal with in the near future. Is that ongoing?
Yeah, so we had purchased our main power transformer, so that was a big purchase for this project. So we have secured that and have that under contract, and manufacturing actually started already with that.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long.
Kind of a deal breaker if you don't have those.
Very long.
Yeah, transformers are massive lead time. Massive lead time.
For anybody who's not familiar, those things arrive on a rail and they can weigh up to 1 million pounds. It's a huge operation to move those around, so a lot of logistics involved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. So we do need a preliminary vote on the resolution this evening.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution 2023-11 according to the document. Pardon?
11:20.
No, we got it right.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Go back to sleep.
Thought I read it right.
Go back to sleep.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Is there a second for his motion?
I'll second.
All right. I have a motion from Mr. Weir, a second from Mr. Brown to approve resolution number 2023-11, excuse me, the real and personal property tax abatement for Vermilion Valley Solar LLC. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. All right. Preliminary resolution is approved. Thank you for attending the meeting this evening. Appreciate the update. Yes. Hopefully it doesn't rain on your way home.
Thank you guys too.
Thank you. Next on our new business, we have soil and water. Eric Scheidler is here this evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
You take my load, pass it down for me, sir. Appreciate that. Yes. There may be one more. A good example. There you go. Yes, I brought extra. Of course I did. All right. I am Eric Schonder. For those of you who don't know who I am, it's been a while since I've been here with the council, and I do apologize for not getting here sooner. But for those of you who are newer to the council, just wanted to kind of come in and give you a brief update on Soil and Water, who we are. We have some partnerships going on, that just to give you a little bit of explanation on those. One being our National Technical Assistance Grant that we use, Soil and Water uses, to fund our conservation resource technician. And that person is employed by Park and Vermilion County. We share with Park County, simply because Park and Vermilion County Soil and Waters do a lot of programming together, because we're technically both one staff offices. We share producers and we share a district conservationist with NRCS. So it just fits that we do a lot of joint activities. So we have, for the last 3 years, had on staff a resource conservation technician that is paid by these technical assistance grant funds. Graciously, the council 3 years ago gave us the green light to use the county to funnel those funds to pay that employee. So they are technically a Vermilion County employee, just like I am. They get benefits, retirement, and all that. The great thing about that arrangement is that the county has no stake in that. All of that salary and benefits, both, everything that employee would get is paid for by the grant. The county does not put any money into that employee. So that's a zero sum for all of you. Basically, we just funnel the money through you. As we get our quarterly check, we turn around and send a check to the county to pay for that employee 100%. So we appreciate that partnership that we have with the council. Hopefully, we'll continue to do that. We have submitted our grant for 2024 to continue to employ that resource technician. But we had to replace that person. Our current technician, Billy Pigg, got a job with the Indiana State Department of Agriculture. He's going to be a resource specialist with them. And so we have hired a young lady who just graduated ISU with an environmental science degree, and then she also has a GIS minor, which is going to be very good for us. So she started officially today. I think she's going to be a great addition, and she's going to be able to carry on that work for both Park and Vermilion counties in the areas that position takes care of. The bad part about that position is being funded with soft money. They're always looking for something a little bit more secure and a little bit more permanent. So hopefully we keep her around a while and she's happy and we can continue to generate those funds. But it's going to be something that always in the back of the mind, that they're probably going to be moving on at some point. So, but hopefully we'll have her there for a little while. In your folders, I wanted to just, on the left side is just some information for you to browse at your leisure. There is our newest long-range plan that our Board of Supervisors developed and came up with earlier this year. And then also is the publication that we put out during our annual meeting, just to kind of give an overview of all the projects that the Soil and Water does throughout the year. So just some of those things for you to look at, to familiarize yourself a little bit more with what we do. On the right-hand side, I do want to draw your attention to the top sheet. This is our state leveraging sheet, and this is a document provided by the Indiana State Department of Ag, Division of Soil Science, that allows us to look at all the monies from all the different entities that Soil and Water works with, both cost share dollars and services that are brought into the county on an annual basis, and then we can compare that to the county's investment in Soil and Water. So the very top line, you will see your investment. That is my salary, my fringe benefits, and the appropriation that you all provide to Soil and Water for our operating expenses. All the other numbers are either monies that are coming in from the state, from federal government, through services that we enact from partners that come in and work with landowners doing land surveys, all kinds of different work, plus other monies that I work on to bring in from non-government organizations through grants and things like that. When you total all of that up, our return on investment that we bring in for your dollars that you invest is just 2 pennies shy of $11. So for every dollar that you guys provide for us, we're bringing $11 back into the county through direct payment or services to landowners. And that's not just ag producers. That's homeowners, anybody who owns land, anybody who has, questions or issues with their water, their soil, any of their natural resources. We can work with those individuals in some way. One of our crowning jewels, I would say, is our well water testing event that we hold yearly, that we continue to have a great response. We've got some plans in the works to expand that, to get even more folks into that program through some work with the commissioners, some anticipated extra work from both our local Department of Health and also the Indiana State Department of Health coming on as much larger partners in that. So, those are just some of the things that we do. A lot of times Soil and Water is envisioned only for the farmers, but they're not. They're for any of our landowners that need our services. We're getting ready to do our fall fish sale, so if anybody has a pond that needs restock, we're selling fish. That goes live. So, those are just some of the things that we do to assist all of the landowners in the county. The final piece, because I want to keep my comments brief tonight for you, the other piece in your packet is a job description for an administrative assistant position. As you are all well aware, we are currently awaiting completion of the annex. Soil and Water is going to move over into the new annex building once that is completed. And we are going to be offering space. We are also going to be getting from our federal partners, Vermilion County is going to get their own district conservationist. What that's going to mean for us in Vermilion County is that we are going to have a dedicated federal employee here that is going to be working on enhancing and increasing the amount of federal programs for our agricultural land producers that we can offer to them. So hopefully that ROI is going to go up when we add that person, because we're going to hopefully be soliciting more federal dollars into the county for those landowners. So we're growing. We need that office space, but also our job. We're in the field a lot. Right now we're currently down at the library and in one of the old. It used to be the cafeteria. If you're familiar with the old school, my office is. I walk out of my office. There's the basketball court, which is pretty cool, but it's not conducive for growth, and we are growing. But we are out of the office a lot, visiting landowners, doing land surveys. So there's a lot of times when people either call or come by the office and there's nobody there. So we're missing services with people. So the idea of the administrative assistant, when we move into the new building, is to have a person who will be there in the office all the time while we're open during business hours, so that they can answer phones, help walk-in customers, at least get their name and things like that so we don't miss them. And there's also there's a lot of tasks that person can be doing that will free up both the resource technician as far as paperwork kinds of things, and especially my position as the executive director, that would allow me to, again, pursue other things that just aren't getting done because there's only so many hours in the day, that we can work. So that is for your information only at this point. We are asking for that increase in our 2024 budget. I wanted to give you that information ahead of time so that you can look that over, have time to, think about that as we go into the budget session here in the next month or so. So I'm not asking for anything tonight, concrete. Basically tonight is to give you some information, some background, and then to entertain any questions that you might have regarding any of the things that I've presented tonight or anything that we're doing currently in the county.
I do appreciate the extra information, and it's always
Sure.
interesting to see your sheet. And you guys do a great job.
Thank you. I guess I should say on the other side of that leveraging sheet, there's just a very plain, those are just a list of some of the practices that we install for landowners, and it varies. This year we've really increased what we've been doing with our livestock folks. We joke the livestock folks have been neglected for several years, and so we're trying to reach out and start to do a lot more water quality, a lot more conservation with our livestock folks. So we're doing some pasture improvements, we're doing some heavy use pads that are increasing the stability of the soil so that we're not feeding our cattle and sheep and goats in big muck holes and things like that. So we're always working to catch up on the things that we weren't getting there before. So
Can you get us a deal on some trees?
Well, to be honest,
42, is that right? Planning's right here on your list.
As that discussion was happening, my wheels were back there turning, and I was like, well, let's see what programs might be available. So I will be reaching out to the Parks Department and see if we can.
Great.
I'll work with them and see if we can find some.
Probably just pine trees, though. That's all they ever give out.
Right. Yeah. So no, the DNR.
I got peach trees.
DNR, there are certain times when DNR does have certain programs that they do. It all depends on their funding as well. And if anybody follows state funding with DNR, it's all going to next level trails right now, which isn't a bad thing. But so we'll have to see. I will definitely look into that and research that to see if we can't find some opportunities there. So.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions?
Thank you for. Thank you, Eric.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good job.
We have one more item on our new business. Maureen Hayden and the St. Bernice Water Board, I believe, is here tonight. They would like to discuss their water project with us. Maureen, my apologies. I did forward the information to everyone. I forgot to email you to tell you I did. So, but I did forward the brief overview. So, but if you'd like to go ahead and explain it for the public, that'd be great.
My name is Maureen Hayden. I'm with Commonwealth Engineers. We do water and wastewater work. We did the water work here in the town of Newport and the wastewater work here in the town of Newport. We've done the water work in the town of Universal. We're working with the city of Terre Haute and the town of West Terre Haute on their water and wastewater projects. So I'm here tonight, though, with St. Bernice Water Corporation, Susie Jones, who is on the board, and Mike Reed, who's on the board as well. Vermilion County Economic Development Commission gave St. Bernice Water Corporation a $40,000 grant to do what's called a preliminary engineering report. St. Bernice hired us to do this preliminary engineering report, in essence, to study the corporation's aging and deteriorating water infrastructure with plans that you do the preliminary engineering report with the intent to find out what the problems are in the situation in the system, and then to apply for federal or state funding to do capital improvements. So we conducted and completed the PER. We identified multiple capital improvement projects that St. Bernice Water needs to undertake to meet both their immediate, medium, and both their to meet their immediate, their medium-term, and their long-term needs. sorry, I've been sitting there too long, I apologize. We've submitted this preliminary engineering report called a PER to the State Revolving Fund. This is a loan fund that's administered by the Indiana Finance Authority. They get all their money from the federal government. All the infrastructure money that you may have heard about from the federal government is funneled to the State Revolving Fund. The State Revolving Fund engineers reviewed the PER and they approved the preliminary engineering report. And now the State Revolving Fund is offering funding to St. Bernice Water Corporation to finance the project. The challenge is the State Revolving Fund, they will close the potential grant and loan in the spring of 2024, but to close that loan and grant, they expect that St. Bernice will have the design, permitting, and bidding all completed by the spring of 2024. So we're here to ask this evening for a short-term loan, much like the county gave the town of Newport and the town of Universal to the Economic Development Commission at that time. That was the money how the money was funneled through the town of Newport and the town of Universal. We're going to ask for a short-term loan of $400,000 to be repaid to the county when the loan and grant project closes in the spring of 2024. So that's the short version of I think the material that I gave you. We understand from talking to Ashley that you can't, approve that amount tonight, but
Yes.
Ashley invited us to come and at least make a brief presentation to tell you what we want to ask for, and then we'll follow whatever steps is needed, next steps are needed.
We wanted to make sure everyone had a chance to ask questions before they just ask for an additional appropriation. It would be something that we need to probably do through economic development. We would have, if it is something the county wants to help St. Bernice out with, we would need to do the additional appropriation, advertise it for our September meeting, and appropriate it into the economic development budget. That way they have the access to give that loan. Like she mentioned, we have done these things before. I know the Trails Alliance had a grant one time. It was only $50,000, but they were able to buy things and then reimburse us back. And you said spring of 24 is when the disbursement would be from the state? If anyone has questions for St. Bernice or Maureen, I don't know.
So how would these funds be administered? I mean, does St. Bernice handle the funds, or is there a third party?
So the funds would go to St. Bernice, and then we would invoice them as we do our work, as we do the design, the bidding and permitting work. We will invoice them as we do our work. So we are asking for you to indeed give the money to St. Bernice, and then we will, they'll pay us, and then the State Revolving Fund will then, they'll pay St. Bernice, and then St. Bernice can reimburse the county. So the money doesn't come directly to us as Commonwealth, it goes to the entity.
St. Bernice is in Vermillion County, so I'm on board. Personally.
I know you guys have been looking at a water project for a couple of years now, so I'm glad you guys are able to qualify for the grant and the funding from the state. I mean, I'm sure that's a huge relief to know that you're approved. Have they given you any update on timeline for when you get your amounts yet? I know you're expecting them last week, and then they still haven't gotten them to you. So
the State Revolving Fund usually gets about 40 to 50 applications every year. They've gotten over 250 applications for both water and wastewater projects this year, which I think is indicative of the incredible need around the state. I mean, everybody has aging infrastructure. And also with that huge influx of infrastructure money that came down from the federal government, it came under different names, the bipartisan infrastructure law, whatever names it came down about a couple of years ago. Congress passed it, the president signed it into law. It's a 5-year program that just is injecting a huge amount of money into the state. But as more money comes, more people are stepping up.
So usually, typically in the past, the state revolving fund would get 40 to 50 applications, and by August 1st, they would say, here's how much grant money, here's how much loan money you can get. They've not given that out yet. I want to tell you that so there was over 65 projects for drinking water. St. Bernice ranked in the top 10, and they're only funding 15 of those programs. So there's another 40 programs, 40 projects like St. Bernice that are not going to get any funding this year. I'll have to come back in again next year. So we really appreciate St. Bernice. St. Bernice has undergone some organizational changes in which they've implemented lots of great projects and programs to kind of streamline their operations and be accountable for their ratepayers' finances.
How many ratepayers do they have?
300.
300. And this is an $8 million project, is that right?
So the preliminary engineering report we were required to do that was reviewed and approved by the engineers of the State Revolving Fund, that identified all their needs for the next 20 years. We will not go in and do an $8 million project.
Okay.
That would be an imposition on the ratepayers, unless of course we got all that grant money, which we don't think that they're going to give us that much grant money. So our proposal is to break this down into several phases, with the first phase being the most immediate needs that will last them for, we'll put in these projects that will last them for a good amount of time. But then if we do identify potential funding in years to come, we can go through second phase, third phase. But we will not be doing $8 million worth of work in St. Bernice. We don't think. Not in the beginning. Yeah.
There's nothing we can actually vote on tonight, but they're just seeking some guidance to whether they should pursue asking for that additional appropriation through economic development. So to give them just a guidance of direction. So.
We appreciate this because there is a time-sensitive nature to it. As you recall, I said we've got to get the design work done and the permitting work and the bidding work in a 6-month period of time. That's a lot of time. That's a very short period of time to get all that amount of work done.
Once that's done, it's guaranteed that the grant will proceed forward and you will receive that money?
So we'll have paperwork from the State Revolving Fund. We've already gotten an email from the State Revolving Fund telling us there is funding available for St. Bernice. So.
But what locks that in? What guarantees that it's available? But what says it's yours? You do these two things, it's yours. We'll mail it to you. I mean, what?
So the State Revolving Fund has indeed said we've set aside this money for you.
Okay.
And the question now is how much of that will be a grant and how much will be a loan. But the State Revolving Fund has indeed said we'll set aside that money for you. We anticipate getting the breakdown of what is grant and what is loan this week. As I said, usually it's by August 1st when they tell all their applicants. And I think they've just had such a huge volume of work. But we believe the rate consultant that St. Bernice has hired has been in contact with the State Revolving Fund, had conversations with the State Revolving Fund. They've told him that by August 16th, we'll have a breakdown of how much grant and how much loan money is available, which will then help determine really the size and scope of our project. But we do indeed have an email from the State Revolving Fund saying we've set aside this money for you.
And the loan and the grant are from the same entity?
Yes.
So they won't have, they say, well, we gave you the grant, but the bank won't give you the loan. I mean,
No,
it's all
sorry. Yeah.
That's all right. I'm just making sure I understand.
Yes, so the State Revolving Fund offers, actually, what they offer is loans.
And grants.
Forgivable loan.
Okay.
Which they don't call it a grant, it's a forgivable loan, which they loan you the money and then don't expect you to pay it back. And they also offer low-interest loan as well. So it comes from the same source, from the State Revolving Fund, so there's no going to a bank.
Any other questions? Does anyone have any opposition of them?
Nope.
No. Okay. Well, we will put it on the agenda for our September meeting for economic development, so appropriation. So then we can further the steps with economic development.
All right, great. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks.
All right. That is the end of our new business this evening. Is there any public comment? Yes?
I want to bring to your attention that the park board is
been a rough year. We've lost 2 members on the park board this year.
sorry to hear
Ira
that.
passed away, and he was appointed by the commissioners, and they appointed Shelley, his daughter, to fulfill his term. And we just recently lost Dick Zumwalt, who was appointed by you guys. And his son Corey has requested to fulfill his term, and he's put an application in.
Okay.
And so I want to bring that to you because we need somebody to fulfill his place as soon as possible.
Okay. Can we just make an announcement then that we are accepting applications for the park board, and then we can put that on the agenda for our September meeting to confirm that? Thank you. Sorry to hear for the park board's loss. That was very unfortunate. Is there any other public comment this evening? No? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
Second. All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your patience this evening.